Well, welcome everyone to Masters in Travel Travel Advisor Series. My name is John Werner. I'm the president and the chief operating officer of the MAST Travel Network. We're a network of about 1,000 different travel advisors with experience across the world in all kinds of destinations and all types of travel experiences. And today I have with me Karen Kimmey, who is one of our travel advisors who returned from Las Vegas recently. And Las Vegas had recently opened up to visitors and vacationers back in, I guess, in July, different opening dates with different resorts. And things have been going pretty well there. The Las Vegas Visitors and Conventions Authority have reported that the numbers of people visiting Las Vegas has been increasing every week, and they're noticing more traffic at the airport. And so Karen is going to tell us a little bit about her trip. So welcome, Karen.
Welcome. Thank you, Dan, for the invite.
I know that I believe you flew out of Midway Airport on Southwest Airlines, right?
Correct.
And so tell us what you observed when you arrived at Midway Airport, and what was that airport experience like?
Actually, the arrival at Midway was sort of depressing for me because I'm so used to the hustle and bustle of the airport. So to see it so quiet, I was a little taken back.
Mm-hmm.
I had actually taken my mom on this trip, and mom is 91, and she usually gets a wheelchair assistance. So my experience through the airport was with the wheelchair assistance, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm TSA pre-check, I decided to go through her. I wanted to see how it was.
Right.
One of the other agents went through the TSA pre-check to see how that was.
Right. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say. So it was kind of quiet. When you got to your gate, did it look like the flight was going to be fairly full?
That's what was really surprising, because the gate we went out of is, if you're familiar with Midway Airport, there's like 4 gates all in one area at the very end of the concourse. Well, that was the gate our plane was at. So it was actually pretty crowded over there. You didn't realize what was going on because there were 4 flights departing.
Right.
Our flight actually held 170, but it was only booked to 100. We had 70 open seats.
Okay.
And actually, that was both ways, because I went to find out the load factor. I was curious.
Yeah. I guess that stays true to Southwest's commitment to block middle seats right now.
Right.
And I'm not sure exactly how long they plan to continue that. I know, I believe it's at least through the end of the year.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah. So, and then, on the flight itself, what was the service like? I know, airlines aren't serving drinks. You can get water and stuff, but you can't get alcoholic drinks. What were they doing for service?
On the outbound flight, they walked around with glasses of ice water already prepared for you, and a bag of their little chips.
Right.
She came through the flight, I think, one other time and offered water again. Because, Vegas is about, almost a 4-hour flight, 3.5, so it's a pretty long flight.
Yeah.
On the way back, we were offered cans of water.
Okay.
So, but the same thing, just the snacks. They're not using the drink coupons. Those you could still hold whenever it opens up again. So I'm always telling my clients to hold on to them.
Yeah.
But it was sort of bare.
Yeah.
Sort of bare.
Yeah. I know. That's what I hear. And of course, just like every airline, face masks are required on the flight.
Correct. There were no issues at all. Everybody had the face mask on. The flight attendant never actually had to tell anybody to put it back on. They made the announcement at the beginning, please keep your face mask on, and everybody abide by it. It was both flights. We didn't have a problem.
That's nice to hear, that, flying and having no issues on the flight. people kind of understand the drill. They know what's expected, and they're
Exactly.
willing. They want to travel, so they're willing to do what is necessary. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
that's good. And so then, when you landed in Las Vegas, I'm sure their airport there was a little busier, but it also seemed kind of quiet.
Actually, going back to Midway Airport, when we left, well, because of the Chicago rule, I'm assuming, there was nowhere to eat or grab a bite to eat. It was very limited in the airport. There was
Yeah.
only a couple places that were open. The food court in the main part of the airport was closed. So when I arrived in Vegas, I was sort of surprised to see so many places to eat at the airport inside.
Right. Okay.
So that was surprising. And it was actually more crowded than Midway Airport.
Yeah. Okay. And then, when you, well, let me ask you this. Which hotel were you you stayed at in Vegas?
I actually cashed in points. I didn't want the whole Vegas experience for this trip because of COVID. I wanted a pool where there wasn't 150 people in it. I wanted a little bit quieter. So we stayed at the Hilton Grand Villas on the Strip.
Okay.
But I had actually rented a car.
Okay.
So, excuse me, I highly recommend that. But again, I was there almost Labor Day weekend. So that's almost a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
So I'm sure things have changed since I've been there. But I was so happy I rented a car because it was very limited of where you could eat and, things like that.
So
The
that
car
was
experience was pretty interesting. In Vegas, you take that shuttle and it goes to the car location
right.
where they're all in one spot. So that was all fine. The shuttle is the normal. Nothing changed about that. But when we got to the car and we waited to get our car, he then informed us it's another 20-minute wait because they needed to sanitize the car.
Oh, okay.
So I thought that was interesting. And then they just tell you when your car is ready
Right.
after it was sanitized. And
Right.
I believe I rented maybe from Budget. I can't remember, but I think it was Budget.
Okay.
So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And when we got in the car, you could see the seats were wet, the seatbelt was still damp, everything was still wet from the sanitation.
Yeah, it must have been a car that they had to turn around fast then that somebody turned in that
I
morning.
don't think so. I
No?
don't think so. There were tons of cars. They just
Really?
told us it's a sanitation process.
Okay. All right.
So I found that interesting.
Yeah.
But
Well, then it must have been okay driving around. Normally, anytime you get near the Strip, the traffic is always so bad, but probably not too bad right now.
it was empty. It was empty. Usually, the way I explained it to everybody is you could never go left on the Strip. Either there were people walking or there were cars, but you always had to go right if you wanted to go left.
Yes. Right.
Now you could probably did a whole line dance Macarena kind of thing before a car came.
Yeah. Oh, I can see that. Yeah, you're right. To be able to make a left turn is really impossible under normal times. But
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the hotel, what was your first impression when you arrived at the hotel?
They did not have valet. They did have bellboys. So when I went in to check in, she explained to me they don't have valet. They do have parking. Parking will be free. And we could park anywhere we wanted. I had explained that I had my elderly mother. Is it easier for her to walk from the front entrance or from the parking lot? They were so kind and unbelievable. She says, I'm going to get you security and we'll get her a wheelchair. I'm like, well, she doesn't need it. She's got her walker. And they said, no, they sent security with the wheelchair. And actually, they were so kind. They said, you want to go down to the pool tomorrow, call us and we'll take your mom down to the pool.
Yeah.
So they were very kind, very accommodating. They had the glass barriers when
Yeah.
you checked in. That was all pretty standard. Everything is sort of like touchless, so they don't want a lot of touching of things.
Yeah.
Um, the it was interesting because it was more like a condo kind of concept.
Yeah.
So they gave us free movies to rent because there really is not a lot open when I was there. So they would give us DVDs to watch for free. Their gift shop slash um, little sundry store
Hmm.
that was only open. I believe it was Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, and it was very odd hours.
Okay.
So if you wanted to get anything, you had to get it while
Hmm.
it was open.
Now you really had to plan,
You did.
plan
You
around
did.
things.
So in talking to some of the people at the pool, their biggest issue is they didn't have a car.
Uh,
So, was a little limited of where to eat because everything was closed. I had asked at the Hilton, your bar at the pool that serves food and all that, is that normally closed during the week? I was
mhm.
questioning it because of COVID, and he said, no, it is because of COVID, because they usually had bar service, they had waitress service at the pool, but because of COVID, they've just canceled it all.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So where were you able to walk to some other hotels? Because I'm not as familiar with that property, but there were some other places you could walk to from there.
You could, there's a couple Hilton Grand Villas, but that was the one I picked that was down, I guess, what is that called? The north end of the strip.
Okay.
So it's almost closer to Circus Trump Tower that
Oh,
way.
that
It's that
direction.
way.
Okay. All right.
So you could walk across the street. I guess it was the old SLS. Now it went back to being called the Sahara or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you can walk to a couple things, but you
Yeah.
really wouldn't want to walk in that neighborhood anyway.
Ah, all right.
Yeah.
So were you able to visit some of the other? Well, let me back up for a second. Another question I have, as far as all the other safety protocols at the hotel, you did say how they, managed to have the barriers up in the shields or whatever. In the room itself, did you get the impression that the room was extra clean? Um, Things like that?
Yes, I was actually very impressed because it was more like a condo kind of atmosphere.
Right.
There was sanitation strips on the remote controls and
Okay.
everywhere. They gave you a little goodie bag in the room
Hmm.
of wipes and hand sanitizer.
Okay.
And we noticed that we got in very late, so we noticed the refrigerator wasn't really working. So we had called down, and we had to give them permission to actually come in our room to
Uh-huh.
fix the refrigerator.
Right.
Um, there was no towel service unless we requested it.
Okay.
So if I needed clean towels or wanted the sheets changed for some reason, they would deliver it to your room, but they
Okay.
weren't really allowed to go in your room.
Okay. Well, that seems to be kind of a general practice at a lot of hotels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have a chance to visit any other properties? Did you kind of go hopping around a little bit?
We did. We drove around the strip during the day, which actually brought tears to my eyes because it's so empty and so quiet.
Yeah.
Um, it some of the when I was there around Labor Day weekend,
Yeah.
so I know since the past I believe Planet Hollywood is opening up this week or something. But while we were there, Tropicana was supposed to be opening, and they flashed on their board that they're going to postpone the opening. But
Oh,
some of the hotels, they even shut off the marquee lights.
wow.
It's just at night driving further. We had gone further into town to go eat at local restaurants. Um, so driving back in to see the strip, when you could see the strip all lit, you could
Right.
see these blocks of darkness because the Aria closed half of their building. The reuse suite, including the marquee outside, the lights were off.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, it's gotta be strange because,
it was a little weird, a little strange.
yeah,
So we wound up going to the Treasure Island so we could see what was going on in the casino. I picked the Treasure Island because it was an easy access
yeah,
for my mom because it's a smaller casino to begin with.
right.
They had valet, only one man, but they had valet, and we were pretty surprised. There wasn't a lot of cars waiting to get in, but so we had gone into the casino, and I hate to say it, but it was so empty. You could have went bowling and not hit it.
Yeah,
They had every other slot machine turned on, so it was either shut off or it had yellow tape over it to
okay,
show you that the machine was not working.
right.
The tables were pretty much empty. There were quite a few people playing the big wheel.
Yeah,
So, but as far as blackjack and craps, they were pretty much empty. Not very many people.
yeah,
The bar or the lounge that was in the Treasure Island. When we arrived, there was nobody in there. They had about 3 cocktail waitresses waiting. When I finally left the hotel, there was like 2 large groups of probably about 10 people each, separated, but it was nice to see people in the, this is my room. I'm sorry. It was nice to see people at the lounge laughing. That was the one thing I sort of missed is the laughing and the excitement of the bells and whistles.
yeah,
Their 24-hour coffee shop was closed just because it was closed.
yeah,
It wasn't because of the time of day I was there. They just had closed. But they tell you where to go eat.
yeah,
There is hand sanitizer all over. At my hotel where I stayed at the Treasure Island, you probably can't walk 25, 50 feet at the most before you see another hand sanitizer.
yeah,
So I felt very safe. I didn't feel compromised at all. I mean, I wouldn't have taken my elderly mother. It was her idea to do this trip.
yeah. That's what I was, you took your mother, so yeah,
Yeah, so she was the one that said, let's do it.
right,
You know, we can't keep living in fear. Let's go.
exactly.
And we're very happy we went. And actually, on the way home, she made the comment and said, I'm glad we went. I mean, she told her friends, don't be afraid of this. Don't be afraid of flying. Let's do it. So, but it's just, I wish there were more and more people. I think if the casinos or the hotels, I should say, open up, just like that movie, they will come. People will go.
Right.
But we need something to go for.
It's probably due to, they obviously count on a lot of international visitors, and they're missing those
Definitely.
visitors right now. So, it's just, really open to domestic travel at this point. But
Definitely.
yeah, I think, maybe sometime after the first of the year, it'll be much more readily open for international visitors, and it'll get definitely busier. Back at the casino, were they still, if you were at any of the tables, do they still come around and offer a cocktail?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Yes. So I was surprised to see that.
Any of the buffets open?
I'm sorry?
Any of the buffets open that they're famous for?
No, I did not see any.
Wow.
I did not see it. Mm-mm.
Gosh, because I know, like at Caesar's Palace, that buffet there is quite popular and very busy all the time. It's just
Right. But again, like I said, after I had gotten back, one of my other agents went probably 3 weeks after me. And just within that 3-week period, she saw more stuff open.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
more of the food courts and stuff were starting to open up.
Yeah. That makes sense. Um, so, did you, since you had a car, did you go off strip to other attractions around the city, or just any other areas off strip?
Um, Actually, the time previous, I had just went to go see the Neon Museum.
Hmm.
So I didn't do anything this trip. It was more or less a little lay low kind of trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did think I love shopping in Vegas, so we were planning on going shopping after dinner one night. However, everything closed at 7 o'clock for shopping.
Oh, okay.
All the malls, so it didn't matter.
Yeah. Huh. Well, that'll probably change too. So many famous shopping centers along the strip, and some great stores to visit and browse and buy
Exactly.
things and all that. So they were they operating at the restaurants you did go to? Were they operating at a limited capacity? 25, 30%, 50%, something like that.
Yeah, actually, the one night the first night we went to In-N-Out Burger,
You have to
and
do that. Yes.
and that's just like going to a McDonald's here, the same
Sure.
kind of concept. You
Yeah.
could eat inside in the restaurant. The fast foods you could eat inside every other table, and they count you going in. One night we drove into a residential area because we wanted Mexican food,
Mhm.
and uh, the ones we usually go to are closed on the strip, so we decided to go out that way. And it was just like going to a regular restaurant here in Chicago. You had to sit in your car till your table was ready,
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah.
concept, and probably 50% capacity. And the last night, we decided to go to the restaurant that's on the strip called the Peppermill.
Okay.
It's actually an old restaurant that's been there for years. It's almost like it's almost like a Fridays kind of concept, but it does have a bar.
Mhm.
And the same thing, reservations were not needed. If you were going to go to any higher end restaurants, because a lot of those were open,
Mhm.
reservations were required.
Sure.
But this one, you just gave your name, you waited outside till you were called. That one, it's famous because they don't really have tables, they have booths. I
Mhm.
don't know if you've ever been to the Peppermill.
No.
The food is excellent. It's one of these old fashioned restaurants, and it was packed. I mean, we
Oh,
actually had to wait.
right.
Um, but there were those barriers between the booths.
Yeah.
So instead of making it every other booth,
Mhm.
they actually like cocooned you because
Okay.
you had these barriers around you.
Right. Yeah. Is that one of your favorite restaurants in Vegas?
No, I actually haven't been there in so many years, but
Um,
we saw it was open and we said, let's give them a shot,
yeah. Well, what's your favorite restaurant on the strip?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. I'd have to think about
You've
that.
been to Vegas so many times. You probably have many favorite restaurants and go someplace different every time.
Yeah, I like each hotel has something I know it's my go-to place.
Right. Right.
So it's weird. Yeah,
Uh,
never thought
yeah.
about it.
A lot, yeah, so many places to go, and any of the nightclubs open.
No,
There's it's so
unfortunately.
famous there. Nothing.
When we were there, no.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, no.
yeah.
No.
I know they're so famous for the nightclubs, and of course their big pool parties. And you said you didn't want to be at one of the big pool areas, and that's why you chose the hotel you were at. But
Our pool though was open. They actually have two pools at this resort I stayed at. They closed one of them down. There probably was 20 people in our pool, if that.
mhm.
Um, if you were in the water or actually touching the water, let's say you're sitting on the side with your foot in the water, you did not have to have your mask on.
Okay.
Um, However, laying outside the pool, sitting in your chairs,
Hmm.
there were three of us that went. We were by ourselves in three little lounge chairs.
Yeah.
And security did come over and say, I'm sorry, but you have to put your mask on. Only when you're eating and drinking, you could have it off. And actually, my mother looked at the young man and said, honey, I'm 91 years old. I can't breathe outside with this mask on. He said, okay, fine. I don't have to enforce it. I just have to tell you.
Oh, okay. Well.
And I said, you know what? We're all by ourselves. There's not a soul around me. And I'm outside. So I didn't have a problem not wearing a mask when I'm by myself.
Right. Right.
So, but I found that interesting. He says they don't enforce it.
Okay.
So which didn't make sense because if you are in the pool and I'm talking to people I had met in the pool, I'm probably closer than 6 feet away and I'm not wearing a mask, but I'm in the pool.
Right.
So it didn't make sense.
Yeah, it is different from place to place. And even out there, it might have been different from hotel to hotel.
Exactly. It could have just been the rules of the Hilton.
Yeah. I can see that. But you know, the hotel staff, everybody that you came in contact with, car rental counter and the restaurants, they all wore masks.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. Every employee is wearing a mask. From bellboy to, the cocktail waitress, the pool, the lifeguards at the pool, everybody had a mask on.
So when are you going to go back to Vegas to see how much it has changed since Labor Day weekend?
Only because of myself personally, I probably won't go back till next year.
Yeah.
It's just the end of the season now. It's, holidays. I just don't have the time. But I can't wait to go back. I miss my old Vegas. And I don't even gamble, and I miss my old Vegas.
Yes. So I suppose that you didn't see a show either. They're probably not any of the
shows. There
shows.
was nothing going on.
No.
Nothing. This was a trip that was actually my Mother's Day present.
Uh-huh.
So I canceled it for Mother's Day, moved it till I think June or July, and then moved it again to Labor Day, and that's when she said, let's just go.
Yeah.
I want to go.
Right.
So I was waiting to see if some of the shows would open. That was one of the reasons I kept pushing it back.
Yeah.
Because we do enjoy going to see the nightlife.
Right.
But I stopped waiting.
Yeah. Well, it will be, again, in a few more months, it'll be more restaurants open, the shows, and maybe it'll feel like Vegas usually feels.
I hope so. I missed it.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's so great that you did have a chance to go and that you felt perfectly fine and comfortable there, and your mother was comfortable, and sounds like things went very smoothly and really no worries.
Really no worries. Checking out at the hotel is no interaction. They just email you your receipt.
Yeah.
Same thing with returning the car. No issues there.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just email you a receipt. Everybody's itching to get back to life as normal.
Sure.
I felt very comfortable, very comfortable.
Well, that's wonderful. So do you have any other final thoughts, on the experience or, recommendations, suggestions you have for others?
No. The only thing I could say really is don't be afraid to go.
Mm-hmm.
If I could take a 91-year-old lady with a health condition and she felt wonderful, don't be afraid to go. It's just at this precise time, it's not the Vegas we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to go on your trip with that in your mind.
Right.
So as long as you're aware that you're not going to have the craziness of Vegas,
mm-hmm.
Then go experience it. In a way, it's sort of nice to go left on that trip.
Right. Yeah, and it can't be all that bad if you don't have all the crowded restaurants and shopping and everything. It's kind of nice to also go when it's not so crowded.
Right. So I'm planning Disney for January. I'm going to give it a shot. We're going to do the same thing.
Well, you have several trips coming up because you said you'll be in Cancun in a short period of time, and then going to Disney in January.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
wonderful.
they were all postponed trips, so I'm ready. I'm itching.
Yeah, right. Well, Karen, thank you so much for sharing your trip to Vegas with us, and we're really happy to hear that things went so well and you had a great time.
Yeah, thank you, John. Thanks for the invite. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Masters of Travel. You can find us on Facebook at Mass Travel Network, on Instagram at Mass Travel Network, and on Twitter at MVP Travel. If you would like to find a travel advisor near you, please direct message any of our social media sites